Take a deep breath. Let your body settle. Let the noise of the day slip into silence. Tonight, you are not where you think you are. The bed beneath you may feel soft. The air quiet, but as your eyes grow heavy, a subtle shift begins. The present fades. The world you know, cars, lights, screens, dissolves like morning mist. You are being carried backward. Not years, not centuries, but over 1,000 seasons ago. To a place where steel was shaped by fire. Where gods walked the land in story. And where the sea whispered promises of glory and ruin. Open your eyes now, just enough to glimpse it. You're lying on something hard. A bench, hewn from dark, ancient wood. The surface is uneven, the edges rough, softened only by thick woolen furs. A faint orange glow dances across the timber walls. There is smoke in the air, dense and rich with the scent of pine, peat, and something boiling, perhaps porridge. Above you, a small hole in the ceiling lets in threads of gray dawn. You don't recognize the place, but you are not afraid. Outside, wind lashes against the wooden beams, moaning like some great spirit circling above the hills. You hear gulls, distant waves, the shuffling of boots on packed earth. A dog barks, then silence again. The year is 793 of the Common Era. You are in a longhouse on the coast of what we now call Norway. At the edge of a village you do not know. Surrounded by voices that speak an ancient tongue, yet somehow, you understand them. This is the Viking Age. The beginning of it, but you do not know that yet. A door creaks. Cold air rushes in. You sit up, startled. A figure stands in the doorway, broad-shouldered, wrapped in woven cloaks, her hair thick and braided, strands of silver catching the firelight. Her eyes are weathered but sharp. She doesn't seem surprised to find you here. Time to rise, she says, her voice low and steady. The fire needs stoking. The goats will need feeding. You've slept long enough. You try to speak, to explain who you are, where you come from, but your tongue catches. And only silence escapes. It doesn't matter. She turns, expecting you to follow. You step outside, blinking against the morning haze. The sky is heavy with clouds. The kind that threatens snow before the sun can climb. All around you are small wooden buildings, homes, sheds, a smokehouse, a smithy. Beyond them, hills stretch inland, dark with pine and birch. The sea lies in the other direction, vast and gray, breaking against jagged rocks and splintered docks. You inhale deeply. The air burns your lungs, but it is alive, filled with the rawness of salt, smoke, and cold. Men pass by, arms laden with nets and baskets. Women walk briskly with bundles of firewood, or with children half asleep wrapped in cloaks. No one stops. No one stares. You are just another soul in the weave. Here, life does not pause to explain itself. It simply moves forward, one breath, one task, one moment at a time. A child darts past you, chasing a chicken across the muddy ground. Laughter follows. Then the voice again, the woman from the longhouse. Astrid, she says, nodding to herself as if answering your unasked question. You'll help me today. My husband is at sea. The boy is at the forge. And the rest, she gestures to the air. To nothing, or where the gods have placed them. You want to ask more, but she is already walking. And so you follow. And slowly, you begin to understand. This is a world of work, of cycles, of silence. Here, survival is not dramatic, it is daily. The ground must be tilled. The hearth must be fed. Wool must be spun. Children must be taught. And no one is too noble or strange to be spared the duties of the day. As the sun climbs faintly behind the clouds, you start to notice things. The way the buildings lean into the wind, as if bracing themselves. The patterns carved into doorposts, twisting serpents, knots, And what you guess must be Thor's hammer. The way people glance upward when they pass the sacred grove, their lips moving in quiet words not meant for others to hear. Myth and survival walk hand in hand here. There are no sharp lines between what is real and what is sacred. The gods are not distant, they are companions, judges, protectors. Their names are spoken not in temples, but over soup pots and while tying sails. And yet, beneath it all, there is beauty, not soft beauty, not the kind you find in gardens or poems, but the kind that stings the senses, raw, untamed, breathtaking, the kind that lives in the curve of a dragon-carved prow, or in the calloused hands of a smith shaping fire into steel. As the day deepens, you begin to feel it, the pulse of this place. It moves in rhythm with the sea. It hums in the crackle of firewood. It lingers in the stories half-whispered between work and sleep. And somehow, impossibly, you know, you belong to this night. Not forever, but for now, for this breath, for this heartbeat, you are part of this world. So lie back, let the wind carry your thoughts, let the fire warm your bones, and let us begin this journey through the Viking Age, not through dates and battles, but through the eyes of those who lived it, through the hush of morning fog, the clang of iron on anvil, the lullabies sung to sleeping children as their fathers vanish into the waves. This is not a tale of heroes. This is a tale of people, of waking and waiting, of forging and fearing, of loving and leaving, and of you, among them. Welcome to the Viking Age. Chapter 1. The Longhouse Awakening. The Longhouse is quiet, but not silent. Embers glow faintly in the central hearth, casting a soft amber hue across the sleeping forms huddled beneath fur and wool. The scent of ash and pine sap lingers, mingling with the earthy breath of packed soil and old wood. Somewhere above, the wind groans softly, brushing across the smoke hole as if searching for a way inside. You shift beneath the heavy fur. The bench beneath you is hard and unforgiving, no feathered mattress, no pillow, but it is warm, surprisingly warm. The longhouse holds heat like a living creature. The stones around the hearth radiate it. The thick beams absorb and return it. Even the bodies of those sleeping nearby contribute to this woven warmth that defies the cold outside. And yet, it is not comfort that wakes you. It is movement. A figure passes silently across the room, barefoot, wrapped in a cloak of wool. You recognize her from before, Astrid, the woman who first called to you, who expected no questions, no introductions, only action. She is already at the hearth, feeding small twigs into the coals, coaxing new life from yesterday's flame. Her hands move with the certainty of years, every motion practiced, precise. She doesn't look at you, but her voice cuts softly through the still air. Up, she says. There's porridge to stir, goats to tend, and smoke to carry. No one else stirs. The other sleepers remain in their nests of furs and cloaks. Children, elders, 2 older women, one of whom snores faintly with every third breath. A pair of dogs lie curled at the door, ears twitching as wind beats gently against the planks. You rise without speaking. The wooden floor is cold beneath your feet, rough, splintered in places, smoothed in others by generations of passage. You gather your borrowed cloak, sling it around your shoulders, and follow Astrid's lead. At the hearth, a pot hangs from an iron hook above glowing coals. Steam curls upward, carrying the thick, nutty scent of barley or oats. She hands you a wooden spoon and gestures wordlessly. You stir, slowly at first, then in steady circles. She nods, approving. There is no need for small talk here. No idle chatter. In this world, words are weighed carefully. Every syllable counts, like grain counted for winter. As dawn filters through the high smoke hole, the longhouse begins to stir. The first to rise is an old man with clouded eyes. Who mutters a short blessing in a dialect older than memory. He wraps a fur cloak around himself and limps outside, his breath visible in the cold. A girl of perhaps 8 follows, rubbing sleep from her eyes, reaching instinctively for the warmth of the hearth before being handed a bundle of firewood to carry. The longhouse comes alive slowly, like a beast waking from slumber. A rhythm begins to form. Water is drawn, fire is stoked, bread is prepared on flat stones. Children are sent outside to gather kindling or to check traps for small game. Chores unfold with quiet precision. Astrid watches you. Her gaze is not unkind, but it is firm. You eat, then come, she says. There is work. You nod, unsure of what that means exactly. But you eat. The porridge is plain, but warm, and your body responds to it with a hunger you hadn't noticed. When the bowl is empty, you follow her outside. Cold air slaps your face like a wave. The village is waking too. Smoke curls from chimney holes. Dogs bark, and voices carry on the wind, short commands. Greetings. The clatter of buckets and tools. The sky is pale steel above. Clouds streaked with lavender and ice blue. No sun yet, but it waits, hidden behind the eastern hills. You walk with Astrid to a small shed near the edge of the longhouse, a shelter for goats. They bleat at her approach, noses pressed to the wooden slats. Milk, she says, handing you a pail. You blink. I've never. She raises an eyebrow. From what kind of house do you come? She asks calmly. Where no one milks. You hesitate, fumbling for a lie or half-truth. Far. You finally manage. A strange place. Very far. She narrows her eyes, but says nothing. Hands you a stool instead. Watch first, she says. Then try. And so you do. She kneels, grips the goat gently but firmly, and begins the rhythmic motion. You watch the milk splash into the pail, warm and white, and feel strangely moved by the simplicity of it, the ritual of it. After a few moments, she nods for you to try. You do. Poorly. But the goat tolerates you. And Astrid, after a short laugh, nods again. Better than nothing, she says. Later, you help carry water, chop kindling, sweep the hearth. You are clumsy at all of it. Your fingers awkward, your body soft in ways this life doesn't allow. But you try, and she watches. At midday, she takes you down to the shore. The sea lies before you, vast and eternal. Gray waves roll in, capped with white. A handful of small fishing boats approach the dock, men guiding them with practiced ease. Nets hang over the sides, heavy with catch. The smell of salt and brine fills your lungs. Astrid nods toward the boats. Leif's there, she says. Your husband? She nods again. And Eric, our youngest. 12 winters. The boats reach the dock. Men jump off, dragging crates, calling to one another. A boy runs toward Astrid, grinning, arms full of seaweed and mussels. Mother, he shouts, then pauses when he sees you. This is a guest, she says. The boy frowns, but says nothing more. You exchange awkward nods. There is a quiet strength in him already. A spark that reminds you how quickly childhood ends in a world like this. As the fish are gutted and sorted, Astrid talks. 3 children grown, 2 sons with farms of their own. A daughter, married to a smith in the next fjord. She says it without pride or sorrow. Just fact, a life lived, one season at a time. Then her voice softens. But Eric, he dreams. Of what? Ships, storms, dragons. You glance at the sea. The horizon seems endless. Don't we all? She smiles faintly, but her eyes stay fixed on the boy. Dreams are fine, but the goats still need milking. The afternoon is filled with smoke and salt, labor and laughter. Someone brings out a lyre. A song is sung, low and mournful. A melody that seems older than language. Children play near the fire. Old men carve. Women mend sails and braid rope. And you? You begin to understand. This is not a place of spectacle. It is not the world of Hollywood Vikings, of endless raids and gleaming swords. This is the world that makes those raids possible. A world of furs and firewood, of cold hands and heavy breath, of work shared, meals passed, and stories whispered under the stars. And for the first time, you feel steady, not comfortable, not yet, but steady. As night begins to fall, and the cold deepens, you walk back to the longhouse beside Astrid. Eric carries a bucket of water in one hand, a bone knife in the other. He's been whittling all day. He shows you the carving, a wolf's head. Fierce and clever. For my father's next voyage. He says proudly. You nod. It's beautiful. Do you think he'll like it? I think he'll carry it with him. Always. Astrid says nothing, but when the door opens, and the firelight spills onto her face, you see it in her eyes. Hope, fear, love, all held in quiet balance. And so ends your first full day in the Viking Age. Not with a battle, but with a bowl of broth, a carved wolf, a woman stirring embers before sleep. Tomorrow, the forge awaits, but tonight you sleep among them. And the wind, ever watchful, sings you to rest. Chapter 2. Coastal Lives and Wooden Dreams. Morning comes quietly, slipping into the longhouse like a thief on softened feet. The light is thin and pale, filtering through the smoke hole above, carrying the smell of rain and the taste of wind off the sea. Around you, the others stir in their sleep, blankets rustle. A child mutters, and one of the dogs lets out a long, low groan before settling back down near the hearth. You lie still for a moment, watching the shadows shift along the curved wooden beams overhead. You are beginning to recognize their rhythm, the slow breath of the house itself, creaking gently like a ship tied to the dock. It is not a restful home in the way you once knew homes to be. But it is protective, built to hold warmth, family, and memory within its walls. The first voice you hear belongs to Astrid. Time, she says, nudging a bundle near the wall. From beneath the fur, Eric's sleepy face emerges. He groans, blinking toward the gray light. Up, Astrid repeats, less gently. The nets must be mended. And your father will want the carving. Eric sits up, rubbing at his eyes. He looks across the room and spots you. You're still here, he says, more observation than question. You nod. Seems I am. Then help. There's no insult in his tone, only the blunt simplicity of someone who sees the world in tasks and tools. He tosses you a roll of worn twine and a bent wooden needle. You can tie knots? I can try. So you do. Sitting beside Eric near the embers of the fire. You learn the simple, repetitive rhythm of weaving netting. His fingers move quickly, with a confidence born from repetition. Yours are slower, fumbling, but he doesn't laugh. My oldest brother used to tangle the nets worse than this, he says, with a mischievous grin. Father made him untie every knot before supper. Took him all day. The net grows under your hands. Thread by thread, it begins to take shape, like so much in this world. Formed slowly, carefully, under watchful eyes. Outside, the village is already awake. The sea glimmers in the distance, dark and shimmering beneath low clouds. Gull cries echo off the rocks. Men haul baskets across damp wooden planks. Women stand in circles, their voices low, fingers busy spinning wool or scraping hides. Children dart like fish between buildings, calling to one another in bursts of laughter. You follow Eric down to the shore. It is here that the soul of the village reveals itself, not in the hearth or the hall, but on the docks, where wood meets water, where the scent of salt is never gone, and every creak of timber carries the memory of voyage. Fishing boats return slowly through the mist. They are smaller than the longships of legend, low and narrow. Their hulls patched and dark with tar. Their sails folded like sleeping wings. The men on board speak in short phrases. Hands working ropes and nets with a weariness that speaks of long hours at sea. Leif is among them. You recognize him by the shape of his shoulders. The way he leans slightly to the left as he walks, a result. Astrid later tells you of a wound he took in a storm years ago when his vessel was dashed against the rocks near Bergen. He speaks little, even to his son, but he ruffles Eric's hair and nods in your direction. He lets you stay, Astrid says, appearing beside you with a quiet smile. That is no small thing. Leif's glance is enough. In this world, words are precious, spent sparingly and with care. Trust is not spoken, it is shown. You help unload the catch. It's heavier than you expect, baskets of cod and herring. Eels coiling at the bottom. The smell is sharp and pungent. The work is tiring, and your back aches, but no one complains. No one does anything alone. As the morning gives way to midday, Astrid invites you to sit with her. A quiet moment, a cup of water, a place beneath the eaves while rain whispers on the roof. We are lucky, she says, nodding toward the boats. We have a boat, land to farm, sons who survived their first winters. The gods are kind. You glance at her. Many lose children? Many, she says simply. Cold, fever, hunger. Sometimes the sea takes them before even their names have been spoken aloud. There's no bitterness in her voice, only a heavy grace. But Eric, she trails off for a moment. He was born strong, quick. He wants more. He watches the horizon like it's calling his name. And you ask? I watch him, she says. That's enough. There is a quiet courage in those words, one not forged by sword or shield, but by years of patience, sacrifice, and endurance. Later, as the rain eases and the clouds begin to break, you are invited to walk through the village again. The people are beginning to speak of a coming voyage. Not a fishing trip, not a trade run, but something larger. A raid. It is spoken of cautiously, with glances over shoulders, in hushed tones behind open doorways. They say the British coast is rich with silver. A young man tells Leif over a shared horn of ale. The monks have no soldiers, no walls, only gods with bent backs and bellies full of bread. They pray. We sail. Another laughs. But Leif is silent. Later, you find Astrid alone again, seated near the goat pen, weaving wool into thick thread with a spindle carved from bone. Her fingers move with practiced grace. They'll go soon, she says. To the west. You nod. Do you ever ask him to stay? She looks up, the sea gray of her eyes catching the last light of day. No, she says. Men do not belong to women in that way. Not here. He would not ask me to stop weaving. Or stop milking. I would not ask him to stop sailing. She sets the spindle aside, stares at the distant cliffs. Besides, she says softly, the gods watch better from the sea. As night falls, the village gathers. A feast is whispered, not yet a celebration, but a preparation. You help carry benches, stack firewood, fetch dried fish from the storeroom. The hall fills slowly, the air thick with smoke, laughter, and the faint hum of anticipation. Children fall asleep against their mothers' legs. Old men speak of winters past, of raids long ago, when the Franks still feared the northern sails, when the Saxons still trembled at the name of Danes. And you sit beside Eric, watching him trace a route into the dirt with a stick. To the west, he says, beyond the horizon. My father says the rivers there are deep, wide enough for dragon ships. You glance at his carving again, the wolf's head, sharp and noble. You'll go too one day? He nods without hesitation. Yes, but not just to take. I want to find out what's out there, what they eat, what they build, what they fear. It's not the hunger of a raider you hear in his voice, but something older. The call of curiosity, the ache of wonder. Outside, the sea continues to whisper. Inside, a boy dreams of sails and stars. And you, visitor from another time, begin to feel the tides shift. Not in the water, but in the hearts of the people. This is a coastal village. Small, weather-beaten, built from timber and toil. But its dreams? They reach across oceans. And in the quiet between waves, you begin to understand. This is not just the beginning of a raid. It is the beginning of a legacy. Chapter 3. Forging the Future, Fire, Iron, and Blood. The forge sings long before it speaks. It hums in the bones of the earth. In the heavy silence before the first hammer falls. In the flickering light that dances across soot-darkened walls. In the thick heat that clings to your skin like another layer of flesh. The forge does not welcome you. It tests you. You stand at the threshold, eyes stinging from smoke, and hear only the rhythm of breath and flame. Somewhere within, metal groans. Sparks leap like insects from an angry god's altar. And then, clang, a single blow, sharp and sure. Clang, again, the sound of order imposed upon chaos. Clang, you step inside. Gunnar, the blacksmith, does not look up. His world is fire and form. He is a broad-shouldered man, arms like tree limbs, his face lined not by age but by exposure to heat. Wind, cold, and truth, every mark upon him is earned. He gestures without turning. Pump, you blink. The bellows? He nods once. Too much air. The metal dies. Too little. It sulks. You'll give it breath. No more. No less. You move to the handles. Rough wood fitted into worn leather. They creak in protest, but yield. Slowly, the forge brightens. Gunnar moves like a sculptor. Not a brute. The iron on his anvil glows with living heat. Red and orange pulsing like the heart of a wild animal. He strikes with precision, no wasted energy. No uncertain touch. The shape that emerges is not just a tool. It is a promise. An axe head. Not for wood. For war. When he pauses, you see other forms laid out along the bench, spear tips. Knives. Long-bladed scramasaxes. Shield bosses hammered smooth. Some are half-formed, others wrapped carefully in leather for delivery. But none are decorative. None are soft. You know what this is? He asks. Nodding toward the axe. You hesitate. A weapon. A line. He says. Between living and dying. Between ours and theirs. Between fear and what you do with it. He cools the blade. Steam hissing up like an angry whisper. Then he sets it aside and begins again, placing new iron into the fire. Letting it soften. Waiting for the moment to strike. You watch for hours. He shows you how iron must be coaxed into shape. Not forced. How every tool has its own weight, balance, and purpose. You try to lift a finished sword, it's heavier than you imagined. Not like the gleaming props of modern tales. This weapon demands strength, commitment. Can you fight? He asks suddenly. I don't know. You admit. He grunts. Then you can't. No insult in his voice, just fact. Like a farmer saying the soil is dry. Or a sailor noting the wind has turned. But you could learn, he adds, if you stay. You look at the axe again. Its edge gleams now, honed to a terrible beauty. What is it for? You ask. He doesn't answer directly. Instead, he leads you outside, to a row of shields lined against the wall. Each is different, painted wood, rimmed with rawhide, some bearing iron centers for deflecting blades. He places a shield in your hand, then nods to Eric, who appears as if summoned. The boy already holds a wooden sword. He's light, but fast, Gunnar says. Try not to bruise him too badly. You barely raise the shield before Eric attacks. He's not playing. He strikes with speed and intent, forcing you backward. You manage to block twice, then stumble. Again, Gunnar says. And again. And again. By dusk, your arm aches. Your legs tremble. Your pride lies in the dirt. But Eric smiles. You learn fast. You nod. Winded. You fight harder than I expected. That's what my enemies say. The next morning, you return to the forge. This time, Gunnar shows you how to sharpen a blade. You don't make it too sharp. He says, not unless you want it to break. It must bend a little. Like men must. You glance at the axe again. It's one of 20. He says, for the ships. Raids? He nods. You've gone? He doesn't answer directly. Not all who sail return. Those who do, carry more than treasure. They carry memory. Of what it feels like to take. Of what it means to lose. His gaze is distant. You don't ask more. Later, as you help cool a second blade, Eric joins you again. This time, he brings food, flatbread, cheese, a smoked fish. You sit on a stone, steam rising from the forge behind you. And listen. They say the gods watch the forge. Eric says, that Thor blesses iron, and Loki tempers it with mischief. You raise an eyebrow. Do you believe that? He shrugs. We believe what keeps us alive. As the light fades and the sky grows pink above the trees, you hear chanting in the distance. From the hill above the village, the Volva, the seeress, has begun her ritual. You climb to watch. She stands before a great fire, her face marked in charcoal and ash, her voice rising like wind through pine. Around her, the villagers gather, not laughing, not speaking, watching. The gods are close here, closer than you've ever felt them. She sings of Yggdrasil, the world tree, of Odin who gave his eye for wisdom, of Thor who wields his hammer not just to kill, but to protect, of Freya who weeps golden tears and guides the souls of fallen warriors. She sings of Ragnarok, the end to come, but also of rebirth, of returning light, of new iron forged from old blood. You stand still as the fire dances in her eyes, and you understand why these people endure. Not because they are fearless, but because their fear walks with them, sleeps beside them, eats at their table, and they name it, and they keep forging. They do not hide from the end. They shape it. By the time you return to the longhouse, your clothes reek of smoke and iron. Your hands are blistered. Your body aches. But when Astrid sees you, she smiles softly. You worked, she says. You nod. Then you've earned your supper. The next days unfold in rhythm, forge, fire, food, and fatigue. You learn how much heat it takes to soften iron, how much patience it takes to sharpen steel, how much will it takes to lift a weapon knowing what it's for. Eric joins you often, sometimes with tools, sometimes with questions. What would you do? He asks one night. If they came to your village? You pause. I don't know. I'd fight. He says, even if I died. You study his face, so young, and yet already shaped by shadows. I hope you never have to. You say. He shrugs. We all do. But he keeps carving, keeps dreaming, keeps watching the forge, as if it holds the answers to everything he hasn't yet learned to ask. And in the firelight, you realize, this chapter of the Viking world is not about glory. It is about becoming, about shaping something from raw ore, from chaos, from loss, just as the gods shaped the world from the bones of giants. So too do the Norse shape their lives from fire and blood. Chapter 4. Songs of the Skald, Stories that Remember. Stories that shape. Night has fallen, not the quick, shallow dark of modern life, but a thick and endless veil of shadow that stretches from mountaintop to sea. The stars press closer here, more numerous and more ancient than you've ever seen. No city lights, no electric hum, only the slow rhythm of waves and wind, and the low crackle of the hearth inside the longhouse. You sit near the fire. Your muscles still sore from the forge. Your fingers stiff from weaving nets and pulling rope. Around you, Astrid's family settles into the hush of evening. Eric leans against the wooden post. Half asleep, Astrid mends a tunic, her hands moving in practiced silence. Leif, as always, is quiet, his eyes reflecting the firelight but revealing little. And then he enters. The Skald. His arrival is not announced with trumpets or drums. He is old, his cloak is worn, stained with soot and travel. But when he speaks, the air changes. The children sit up straighter. The women pause their sewing. Even the dogs lie still. Because this man does not speak for entertainment. He speaks to remember. He sits near the fire, pulls back his hood, and begins, not with a word, but a breath. And then, in the beginning, he says, voice low and sure, there was only the void, Ginningagap. Cold from the north, fire from the south, and from their meeting, life was born. His voice rises and falls like the tide. He tells of Ymir, the first giant, slain by Odin and his brothers. From Ymir's bones, they made the mountains. From his blood, the seas. From his skull, the sky. And from his teeth, the rocks that break the waves. The room leans in. Even you, who were raised on science and logic, feel something ancient stir within you. The story continues. He speaks of Yggdrasil, the great world tree, whose roots dig into the 9 realms. Of Asgard, the home of the gods. Of Midgard, the world of men. Of Helheim, where the dead without honor wander. The Norns carve our fate into the roots of Yggdrasil. The Skald says, and not even the gods may change it. His voice takes on urgency as he shifts to the gods. Thor, the thunderer, protector of mankind. Loki, the trickster, clever and dangerous. Freya, the weeper, whose tears of gold fall for her lost love. And of course, Odin, the All-Father. He gave one eye for wisdom. He hung himself on the tree for 9 nights, pierced by his own spear, to steal the runes of knowledge from death itself. You glance around the room. Eric stares, wide-eyed, lips moving with the verses. Astrid's sewing lies forgotten in her lap. Even Leif watches, unblinking. The Skald's voice lowers now, growing more intimate. Ragnarok is coming, he says softly. A winter that never ends. The wolf will swallow the sun. The serpent will rise from the sea. And Odin will fall. Silence. The only sound is the fire shifting. A piece of wood cracking in the flames. But the Skald does not leave you in doom. From the ashes, he says, a green world will rise. The surviving gods will meet again. 2 humans will emerge from the trees. Life will begin anew. You feel the echo of that idea in your chest, death. Yes, but not despair. Not an end. A cycle. He finishes with a blessing in the old tongue. Too fast for you to follow. But soft and warm like a prayer. And then he is quiet. A moment passes. And then the longhouse breathes again. The spell is broken, but something remains. A hush. A reverence. You realize the Skald has done more than entertain. He has carved the lineage of his people into your memory. Past the fire forward. He is a living bridge between myth and memory. Truth and tale. Later, as the others sleep, you find Astrid outside, staring up at the stars. They say he's been telling those stories for 60 winters. She murmurs. He knows the names of every Jarl from here to the islands. The bloodlines, the feuds, the blessings. You nod. He speaks like a priest. He is one, she says, though not of the gods. You look up. The stars are the same in every world. Astrid says, but only if someone remembers their names. That night, you dream of giant wolves and serpentides, of hammer strikes that crack mountains, of a world swallowed and reborn. Not a bedtime story, but a legacy. Chapter 5. Of threads and farewells, the first departure. Dawn rises soft and pale across the fjord. The clouds silver-edged and trailing mist over the water like spilled breath. The light has a chill to it, clear and uncertain, as if the sky, too, senses what is coming. The settlement stirs quietly, but not with the usual bustle of chores or market. This morning, the stillness says more than words. You wake to the sound of cloth being folded, of tools being checked and wrapped in waxed leather, of boots being laced with careful fingers. The longhouse feels different, emptier. Not of people, but of certainty. Each movement is precise, every silence charged. Astrid stands at the hearth, binding bundles of herbs. She doesn't look up when she speaks. They go at midday. You nod, unsure whether to offer hope or sympathy. She does not seem to want either. Eric has packed his father's bag. She adds, twice. You smile faintly. Nervous? She meets your eyes then. Proud and terrified. Outside, the boats are being readied. 6 of them, not the massive warships of later centuries, but swift, lean vessels with high-curved prows and patchwork sails. Each one bears the touch of its crew. A carved animal on the prow, a pattern stitched into a sail, a charm tied to the tiller. Leif stands beside his, quiet and focused. He runs a hand along the edge of the hull, feeling for weakness, not in the wood, but in his own resolve. He doesn't speak much this morning. He doesn't need to. You follow Astrid through the village. Everywhere, hands are busy. Women stitch final hems into cloaks. Boys carry sacks of dried meat, bundles of wool, oiled tools. Old men sit near the well, murmuring prayers too old to be written down. A child ties a small pendant, Thor's hammer, around her father's wrist, biting her lip not to cry. And you begin to understand something deeper. This is not just departure. It is ritual. Not a single horn sounds, but the entire village breathes in unison, holding itself between 2 moments, the one before they leave, and the one after. At the Jarl's hall, the warriors gather. Leif is among them, now dressed in his finest tunic, wool dyed deep green, held with a bronze brooch that has darkened with age. Eric adjusts the strap on his father's pack. I made the knots strong, he says quietly. Leif nods. Good. Astrid approaches, placing a hand on Leif's arm. I boiled the linen, she says, handing him a small cloth-wrapped bundle. If you're wounded, I won't be, he says, not as defiance, but as hope. Eric steps closer, his eyes bright but dry. Leif kneels to him, placing both hands on the boy's shoulders. While I'm gone, he says, watch over your mother. Keep the goats safe. Learn the forge. Eric nods fast, swallowing hard. And remember the stars. Leif adds, his voice softer now. They're the same wherever you go. Even when I can't see you. They will. The boy stands straighter. I will. Leif rises, kisses Astrid gently, and turns to go. The warriors move as one down to the docks. Each man carrying more than what's visible, weight that lies in memory. In fear, in what they leave behind. A line of villagers forms along the shore. Women, children, elders. No wailing, no pleas, only the silence of farewell. And then the chants begin. Not loud, not martial, but slow and deliberate. The Jarl speaks to the gods, asking for strength, guidance, and safe return. His voice is steady as he raises his arms toward the gray sky. Beside him, the Volva steps forward, her face painted in spirals, her voice sharp and strange. She sings, and the wind changes. It seems to lean into her words. To the west, O sons of ash and iron, may your oars drink deep and your blades sing true. May the gods not forget your names. The men board the ships. Leif turns only once, to find Astrid in the crowd. Their eyes meet. Nothing is said, but everything is spoken. Then the boats push off. Oars dip into the water in perfect rhythm. The carved prows rise like beasts from myth, turning slowly toward the sea. Children run along the rocks, waving furiously. Some call out names, others simply stare, as if afraid that blinking might erase the moment. The ships vanish one by one around the bend of the fjord, swallowed by mist, and silence falls. No applause, no cheers, just the sound of waves washing against empty docks. Astrid exhales slowly, then straightens her back. "Well," she says, not unkindly, "the goats won't milk themselves." And life resumes, but not as before. In the coming days, the village shifts. The absence of the men becomes its own presence. Women carry heavier burdens. Older children take on the work of youth. The forge grows quiet. The halls echo at night. But no one complains, because this is how it has always been. Raids and returns, farewells and feasts, blood and breath. In the quiet evenings, you walk with Eric along the ridge above the village. He points out constellations, naming them in both his tongue and yours. "That one?" he asks. "What do you call it?" You smile. "Orion." He nods. "We call it the Wound Giver. A hunter, too." He traces the stars with a stick. "Father says stars are truth. Always above us, even when we don't look." And you wonder if this boy, watching the sea, dreaming of ships, will one day sail too. Will he become like Leaf? Will he return? You don't know. No one does. But here, on this coast of myth and memory, you understand. Every departure is a gamble. Every silence holds a name. And every cloak stitched with love carries both hope and fear. Not all warriors wear swords. Some carry milk buckets. Some light fires in empty hearths. Some wait, with hands calloused and hearts full, for sails to return on the horizon. This is how the North remembers. Not just through conquest, but through endurance. Chapter 6. The shape of storms, signs, fears, and the first return. The sky splits before the storm ever reaches you. A strange tension fills the air, sharp, metallic, like the taste of fear on the tongue. The birds are silent. The wind has stopped. It's as if the world itself is holding its breath. And then, a crack of thunder like the roar of ancient giants. Lightning forks across the horizon, bright enough to cast shadows even in the heart of the longhouse. The children whimper, huddling close to their mothers. Astrid moves quickly, banking the fire, securing the shutters, whispering a prayer that blends the names of gods with the names of those now at sea. You glance toward the coast, but see nothing, only mist and cloud and memory. It's been weeks since the boats vanished westward. No birds have returned bearing news. No sails have crested the far bend of the fjord. And now, this storm, it feels like a warning, like a voice. The villagers gather in the Jarl's hall, not for ceremony, but for shelter. The roof groans under the weight of wind. Rain lashes sideways across the beams. Someone mutters that Thor is angry. Another swears they saw Odin riding the storm clouds. The Volva is silent, which is more unsettling than anything she might say. At the height of the storm, Eric speaks the question that burns in every heart. Will the ships be safe? No one answers, not even Astrid. You sit by the fire as night stretches long. Thunder walks overhead like a pacing beast. The flames flicker in rhythm with the wind. The villagers don't sleep. They wait, as they have always waited. But waiting doesn't numb the ache. Morning brings no calm, only silence. The storm has passed, but its shape lingers in broken branches, in flattened fences, in the way people speak more quietly now. No one says it aloud, but the fear is there, coiled like a snake beneath every thought. What if they don't return? What if they found death instead of glory? You walk to the edge of the fjord with Eric. He holds a piece of driftwood in his hands, weathered, carved with lines from a broken fishing net. That looks like our boat. He says. You want to tell him it's just a branch. But even you don't believe it. That night, Astrid does not sleep. She moves through the longhouse silently, touching each of Leif's tools in turn. The knife he made for her when they married. The boots he left beside the door. The chest with his spare tunic, folded carefully as if he might return any moment. You offer to help with chores. She shakes her head. This is the work of waiting. She says, it belongs to me. And then, just when hope begins to fray, a shout from the docks. You rush outside, heart pounding. At first, it's hard to believe, but then you see them. Sails, tattered, patched, but unmistakable. 6 dragon-prowed ships glide slowly into the fjord, their hulls lower in the water than when they left. People pour from their homes. There are no horns, no drums, only the sound of footsteps slapping earth, of tears, of laughter caught in the throat. Astrid is already at the shore, Eric beside her. The boats dock roughly. Ropes are thrown. Men leap into the shallows. Some run, some stagger. One falls to his knees, kissing the sand. Leif is among them, wet, bruised, exhausted. Astrid embraces him without a word. Eric clings to his leg, burying his face in wool and salt. But your eyes drift elsewhere, to what the ships carry. Not just plunder, though there is plenty, sacks of grain, new cloaks, barrels of ale, foreign tools and weapons, but also people, a dozen or more, huddled, shivering, dressed in simpler clothes, not Norse, eyes wide with fear. Thralls, slaves. A girl, young, thin, trembling, steps awkwardly onto the dock. She stumbles. Leif catches her by the arm. Ethelade, she whispers. Leif frowns. That's too difficult. We'll call you Fade. Her eyes lower. She nods. You flinch, but no one else does. It is normal here. Necessary. Even. More hands for the farm. Someone says. She'll learn. They always do. You say nothing. But inside, something twists. That night, the Jarl declares a feast to mark the return. Tables grown with food, roasted meats, bread baked with foreign grain, even honey and spices that no one can name. Ale flows like water. The villagers sing. Children run with torches, laughing. The warriors are celebrated. Their stories already retold. They speak of monasteries taken by surprise, of gold crosses snatched from altars, of resistance crushed quickly, though not without cost. One ship limps back with a cracked hull. One man is missing. Another walks with a cane now. But the raid is called a success. Fade serves at the table, eyes downcast. You notice she avoids speaking, though you suspect she understands more than she lets on. Her name is used often now. She has become a part of the village, not through invitation, but through survival. The Volva rises during the feast, her face half shadowed by firelight. She speaks of victory, of the gods' favor, but her voice changes, softens. Do not grow proud, she warns. Do not forget that fortune has a twin. She watches as you feast. She waits for you to stumble. The room falls quiet. Even the Jarl listens, because everyone here knows the truth. A single storm could end them. A single battle could erase their names. And so they celebrate. And so they fear. 2 truths, forever bound. Later, as the village sleeps, you walk beneath the stars with Eric. They came back, he says. You nod. Not all do. He looks up. I'll go one day, he says. I'll sail. You believe him. But tonight, he is still just a boy. One who survived the storm. One who saw the sea give back what it took. And you understand now. The Viking world is not made only of iron and fire. It is made of waiting, of witnessing, of watching the storm, and praying that your name is not the one it calls. Chapter 7. of power and price, the weight of plunder, the cost of glory. The fire in the Jarl's hall has long gone cold. Embers smolder beneath ash. The laughter that once echoed against the high timber beams now lingers only in memory. The feast has ended. The cups are empty. The songs are sung. Now begins the other part of victory. The accounting. It begins quietly. The next morning, no drums. No horns. Just the rustle of tunics. The whisper of boots on stone. And the low murmur of anticipation as the entire settlement gathers in the open yard before the hall. This is the division of plunder. A public ritual, as essential as the raid itself. It is here, before all eyes, that worth is weighed, that bonds are tested, and that the gods watch most closely. The Jarl stands before a large wooden table piled with goods, silver coins tarnished with foreign faces, woven fabrics dyed in strange colors, ornate brooches, golden crosses, unfamiliar tools, jars of preserved fruit, barrels of ale, and people. The thralls are lined to the side, 12 of them. Men, women, a few children, faces marked not just by fear, but by displacement. Their eyes scan the village not with curiosity, but with calculation. What comes next for them? Where will they go? Who will claim them? Fate is among them. She stands straight, her hands clasped before her, her eyes unreadable. She does not cry. She does not speak. The Jarl begins the division. First, the warriors. Each receives a share according to rank and deed. Those who killed, those who steered, those who bled. Leaf receives a polished blade with a jeweled hilt. Another man is handed a finely dyed cloak. Still another receives a pair of bronze armbands. It is not just about wealth. It is about honor, about recognition, and about reinforcing the unspoken truth that power flows from strength, and loyalty is purchased with fairness. Then the thralls. They are not chosen first come, first serve. They are assigned, some to warriors, some to craftsmen, others to households. Their fates are handed over like tools, like coin, like bread. Fate is assigned to Leaf, not with flourish, not with ceremony. Strong hands. Someone mutters, "She'll be useful." Astrid says nothing. Later, you ask her, gently, how she feels. "She'll be fed," is all Astrid says. "She'll be taught." And perhaps that is kindness. In a world built from frost and fire. As the day wears on, the celebration fades into work. The warriors inspect their gains. The children peer curiously at foreign objects. Women boil grain taken from distant shores. Blacksmiths examine blades not made by their own hands, marveling at strange craftsmanship. You find yourself beside Fade as she hauls water from the stream. Her hands are chapped, her pace is slow, but she does not complain. When no one else is near, you speak softly. "Where are you from?" She looks at you, cautious. "Northumbria," she says. After a long pause, "My father was a thatcher." "And your name?" She hesitates again. "Ethelade, a name of her people." You say it aloud. She winces. "Fate is easier." You nod, though you do not agree. A name, like memory, should not be forgotten. That evening, the warriors gather again, but not to drink, to plan. The plunder must be used, not only for comfort, but for strategy. The raid on Lindisfarne was profitable. Yes, but it was also a message. Now others will be warned. Monasteries may be guarded. Villages may fight back. Leaf speaks plainly. We must strike faster, farther, build more ships, join with other settlements. The Jarl agrees. Next year's raid will be larger, bolder, riskier. And so, the cycle feeds itself. The gold buys timber. The slaves build ships. The stories breed ambition. In the forge, Gunnar sharpens the blade given to him from the raid. He turns it in his hand. Well made, he admits. Not Norse, but strong. You watch as sparks fly. He glances at you. You learn quickly. He says, "You could be useful next season." You blink. "You mean, go?" He shrugs. Another hand. Another eye. "You've seen what we do. It changes a man." You think of the storm. Of the girl renamed. Of the child separated from her mother. And you wonder, what kind of change? Back in the longhouse, Astrid prepares the winter stores. Fade helps without being asked. Astrid instructs her patiently how to sort grain, how to salt fish, how to stack firewood to dry. She doesn't speak to her like a slave, but not like an equal either. That night, you sit with Eric near the fire. He's quiet, staring into the flames. They said the church had gold bowls. He says, and bells that rang by themselves. You nod. They call them sanctuaries. Why don't they fight? You pause. Some do. He looks at you. If I go one day, will I bring back gold? Maybe. You say. But I hope you bring back more than that. What's more than gold? You smile faintly. Yourself. He frowns, but says nothing. The next morning, you find the Jarl standing at the water's edge, looking west. His boots are muddy, his cloak unfastened, his expression unreadable. They call us raiders, he says, without turning. But we are builders. The riches we take become farms, roads, homes. It's not just about silver. It's about surviving the dark. You understand him. And yet, the cost lingers in the air. Fade walks past with a pail. The child cries quietly as she's pulled away from the fire. Given to a household far from her mother. Even victory tastes of ash. As winter approaches, the village grows quiet. The warriors return to their daily lives, mending roofs, chopping wood, repairing nets. But their eyes often drift westward, toward lands they now know, toward memories they cannot forget, toward the price they paid, and will pay again. Because here in the Viking Age, glory is never free. It is carved into the bone, etched into memory, and written in names that may not live in songs, but remain in the silence after the feast. Chapter 8. The long night, winter work and the waiting world. The days grow shorter, the light thinner. Sunrise comes late, hesitating just above the horizon, and vanishes early, as if uncertain its welcome here. Shadows stretch long by midday. The air sharpens, your breath fogs even indoors, and the fjord begins to freeze. You wake to silence, not the stillness of sleep, but the hush of snow. A thick, heavy snowfall has blanketed the village overnight, muffling footsteps, burying rooftops, transforming the landscape into a white canvas where nothing moves without purpose. The forest stands motionless, the sea holds its breath. Winter has arrived. In the Viking world, winter is not a pause. It is a test, of preparation, of endurance, of will. There are no raids now. No sails unfurled, no fires along distant shores. The dragon ships are pulled inland, overturned and covered in straw, their proud prows dulled by frost. Leaf walks among them often, running a hand along the wood, whispering to them like a farmer might whisper to his plow before spraying. He is not idle, but waiting. Everyone is. Inside the longhouse, life changes. The hearth becomes the center of all things. Children gather close to its warmth. Women spin and weave in rhythmic silence. Men repair tools, fletch arrows, shape spear shafts. Every hand has work to do. And yet the pace slows. The urgency of harvest and raid gives way to something quieter, almost reverent. Astrid teaches Fade how to card wool, how to twist flax into thread. Fade's hands fumble at first, but she learns quickly. She watches closely, remembers small details, speaks less and listens more. Eric begins carving. At first, small pieces, wooden beads, toy boats, spoons, but his skill deepens. One night, He presents you with a small figure, a man holding a star, arms raised. For you, he says, a wanderer. You trace the carving with your thumb. And who am I wandering toward, you ask? He shrugs. Spring. A simple answer. A true one. For now, that's all anyone is doing, wandering through winter. One moment at a time. In the dark hours, the village gathers for story and song. The skald recites the sagas, the tales of Thor's hammer, of Loki's mischief, of Baldur's tragic beauty. But more often, it is local stories that draw the most attention. Of the first ship to cross the open sea, of the storm that split the fjord in half, of the warrior who fought 3 men with only a broken oar. You hear the same stories repeated night after night, and each time, they grow a little longer, a little sharper, because winter is not just for survival. It is for memory. One night, the Volva speaks. She does not often join the fireside gatherings. But when she does, even the children fall silent. Her voice is like wind through pine. The gods do not sleep through winter. She says, they dream, and their dreams drift down into ours. You ask her, softly, what the gods dream of. She tilts her head. The end, and what comes after. You shiver, though not from cold. Later that night, you help Leaf repair the handle of a broken axe. He works quietly, but with focus, wrapping leather with careful hands. We lost a man, he says suddenly. On the raid. You look at him. Who? Her old, big hands. Sang badly. You'd remember him. You do. A laugh at the last feast. A man with a crooked smile. We buried him by the river. Leaf adds. Didn't want to bring the body back. Too long a sail. You nod. What else is there to say? It's strange, Leaf murmurs, tightening the leather. How someone can be part of the world one day, and gone the next, like a log drifting under the ice. Still there, but out of reach. His words linger longer than the firelight. Even Fade seems changed by winter. She is no longer just the silent girl from Northumbria. She knows the layout of the house now. Anticipates Astrid's needs before she speaks. Hums when she works. She speaks more Norse. Occasionally jokes with Eric. And keeps a small necklace of her own beneath her tunic, a carved token. Likely from her childhood. One morning, she hands you a bowl of warm porridge. Smiles faintly. You dream loudly. She says in halting Norse. You laugh. What did I say? She shrugs. Mostly your name, and one I don't know. You wonder which name she heard. Your real one? Or the one the North has given you? Outside, snow piles against the longhouse walls. Ice glazes the trees. The goats huddle in their pen. Wool thick and unbothered. Somewhere in the distance, wolves howl, more out of habit than hunger. The village endures. It does not grow. It remembers. And in remembering, it survives. One evening, Astrid leads you to a high ridge overlooking the fjord. The stars blaze above, crystal bright. She points out the constellations. That one? She says. The net. You squint. The what? The net. Loki's trick. It catches fate. No one escapes it. You watch the stars with her in silence. They do not move. They only shine. Below, the village is a cluster of warm lights in the snow. Tiny, fragile, fiercely alive. Astrid sighs. Winter doesn't kill, she says. It reminds. And you understand. In a world of iron and ice, survival is not the opposite of death. It is the act of remembrance. Every stitch in the wool. Every tale told by the fire. Every bowl of porridge shared without asking. It is all memory. And memory is what keeps the North alive. Not because it looks backward, but because it holds on. To faces, to names, to the long night, and the quiet promise that one day, the ice will break. Chapter 9. The burning shore, new ships, new ambitions, and the shape of fear. The ice begins to melt, not all at once, but in secret. It starts as a trickle beneath the snowbanks. A quiet groan from the frozen fjord. The roof of the longhouse begins to drip at dawn. And then, one morning, you wake to the sound of rushing water, as the river bursts free and sings again beneath the trees. Spring has come to the north, and with it, fire in the hearts of men. Leaf sharpens his blade before the hearth, oiling it with the care one gives to a beloved horse. He tests its edge against his thumb and smiles faintly when it draws a dot of blood. "It's ready," he says. The forge returns to life. Gunner strikes hot iron into shape, hammering with purpose and speed. The blacksmith's rhythm becomes the new heartbeat of the village. Sparks fly like fireflies, and the smell of soot blends with thawing earth. This year's ambition is greater. 6 ships will not be enough. The Jarl calls a meeting, one not only of warriors, but craftsmen, scouts, elders, and even farmers. They gather in a circle around the central fire. Faces stern. "We've drawn blood," he says, "and the world has bled gold." Heads nod. "But now the world knows us. They will defend their temples, their grain, their women." He pauses. "So we must strike harder, smarter, deeper. The goal is not just plunder. It is power." They speak of alliances with nearby settlements, coordinated raids, resource sharing, messengers between fjords. Plans are drawn, tools are counted, rope is braided. The sailmakers work late into the night. In a corner of the shipyard, Eric works beside Gunnar, carving the snarling face of a wolf onto a ship's prow. His fingers are careful, his eyes sharp. "You help carry timber, surprised at your own strength. You've grown used to the rhythm of this life, its demands, its rituals, its silent, shared understanding. Everything is earned." Fade works beside Astrid, spinning wool for new tunics. She no longer flinches at sudden noises. Her Norse is stronger. One evening, you hear her singing, a lullaby in her own tongue. Soft and wistful. "It was my mother's," she says when she notices you listening. "I almost forgot the words." You don't ask more. Some things deserve silence. And still, the village does not forget the raid. Or what followed. Because with ambition comes fear. One night, scouts returned from the high ridges. Strangers were seen moving near the outer paths, well armed. Likely from another Norse clan. Perhaps allies. Perhaps enemies. Leif's face darkens. "They know what we took," he says, "and they want to share." The Jarl doubles the night watches. Fires burn brighter. Children are told to stay indoors after dusk. And the warriors begin sleeping with their weapons close. Fear becomes the new kindling. You see it in Astrid's eyes as she checks the locks on the grain store. In Eric's silence as he sharpens a wooden spear. Even Fade, for all her calm, begins keeping her shoes beside her mat, ready to run. The night the strangers arrive. There is no warning. Just movement in the dark. A rustle in the trees. A flicker of torchlight where no torch should be. Leif gathers a small band quickly, 3 archers. 2 men with axes. And you. You carry a torch. Your heart beats like a war drum. No battle cries. He warns. We fight like hunters, not heroes. You move between buildings, silent as breath. And then, movement. Shadows crossing the central path. Low voices. A weapon glinting in the moonlight. Leif raises his hand. A signal. Arrows fly. 1 man drops. Another stumbles, groaning. A third raises a horn to his lips, then collapses with an arrow in his throat. The remaining men scatter. You chase briefly, but Leif pulls you back. "No, let them crawl home." He steps over a body. Frowning. "They're Norse." You blink. "I thought. Not strangers. Rivals. They came for our Lindisfarne silver." He doesn't curse, doesn't shout, but you see the truth settle on him like a cloak of snow. They are being watched. Envied. Marked. The next day, the village holds council again. The Jarl stands before the wounded body of one of the raiders, now stripped of weapons and bound to a post. The man glares without shame. You think the sea is yours? He spits. You opened the door. We will all walk through it now. The Jarl does not strike him. He simply turns. Build faster, he says. And build bigger. The next weeks pass in a blur of work and urgency. The dragon ships rise from the mud like monsters reborn, longer this time, with deeper hulls and wider sails. Weapons are counted, provisions packed, maps drawn from memory and guesswork alike. Eric carves runes into the mast of his favorite ship. To keep it safe, he says. Fade helps shape clay pots to store the barley for the journey. Astrid sews a belt knife into Leif's tunic when he's not looking. For when all else fails, she says. And then, the time comes. The ships are launched. One by one, the villagers line the shore. Faces are proud, but tense. This is no longer just tradition. This is survival in motion. As the warriors board, Leif kneels to speak with Eric. You know what to do. Eric nods. Help your mother. Watch the fields. Watch fade. Leif's hand lingers on the boy's shoulder. And then he's gone. The dragon ships vanish into the sea mist, the carved faces on their prows seeming to grin as they breach the tide. No songs are sung, no horns blown, only the quiet crack of oars, and the long echo of ambition. Chapter 10. What comes back? Blood, burdens, and the second return. They see the sails first. Not the sound of horns or the pounding of drums. Not the proud voices of men or the clatter of boots on timber. Only the pale red cloth catching a western wind, rising over the curve of the fjord like the sun itself, too small at first to be certain. Then unmistakable. They are home. The dragon ships return. But this time, the crowd does not cheer. The shoreline gathers slowly. Fewer children run forward. More wives clutch their cloaks. More eyes search the horizon not for treasure, but for signs of damage, of blood, of absence. Astrid stands tall, but you see her hands tremble. Fade clasps Eric's hand without a word. As the ships draw closer, the signs grow clearer. One ship lists to the right, its hull freshly patched with pale timber. Another flies no standard, its sail torn, its figurehead scorched. Faces emerge on deck, but not all familiar. Some are missing, others are marked by bandages, bruises, quiet stares, and they are not alone. Behind the warriors are more figures, slender ones, smaller ones, women, children, and thralls. More than last year. A girl with matted hair, a boy with a swollen ankle, a woman holding a bundle to her chest. None of them look up. You scan the faces on the ships. Where is Leif? And then you see him, standing tall at the stern of the lead vessel. His cloak fluttering in the wind. His face is lined with exhaustion. But his eyes still burn. He nods once at Astrid. She exhales. The ships pull in. Ropes are thrown. Warriors jump to the dock with the ease of routine. But their movements are slower. Heavier. The smell of blood clings to them. Buried beneath salt and sweat and smoke. Leif steps ashore and clasps your forearm. We came back, he says simply. But it cost. You ask nothing else, not yet. The village springs into action. The wounded are carried off. The newcomers, prisoners, thralls, and the rare volunteer, are gathered, catalogued, and assigned. Fade watches as a woman, clearly from the Saxon coast, is led toward her. The woman stops before her, eyes blank. She's mine now? She whispers. Fade does not answer. Because how can she? Later, you speak with Leif beside the fire. He does not boast. Instead, he tells the story like a ledger. Line by line, they struck 2 monasteries, 1 fortified town. The monks were ready this time. He says, traps, stone walls, armed resistance. There was a battle on the shore, brief but vicious. They lost 3 men. We won, Leif says, but it didn't feel like winning. You ask about the others, the women, the children. He nods toward the newcomers. Some came willingly, others didn't. We needed hands. The Jarl said we had to claim more than gold. He doesn't look at you as he speaks. And you understand the unspoken part. He's trying to believe this was right. That it was necessary. Astrid sits beside him, silent. She doesn't ask for details. She only touches the bruise at his jaw. And says, "You're home." Then she walks away. That night, a feast is held, but it is quieter. There is no singing, no dancing, only full plates and full silences. The new thralls serve food. Their expressions blank. Among them, a girl with an English name is given a Norse one. Again, Flade watches her with unreadable eyes. The Volva speaks again that night. She raises her hands to the smoke-filled rafters and says, "Glory brings weight. The more we carry, the deeper we sink. Let us not forget. Those who fly too high, the gods always bring low." The hall grows cold despite the fire. No one claps. No one laughs. The celebration ends early. Outside, the warriors gather in a tight circle. Leif shares that scouts believe more southern settlements are preparing for defense. That the next raid may not be so easy. That alliances must grow stronger, or they will be crushed. The Jarl speaks. "We've tasted blood, but so have they. We must strike harder, strike sooner." And thus begins the planning again. You wander the village as others sleep. The stars are clear. You find Eric sitting at the edge of the dock, carving a piece of wood. "What are you making?" you ask. "A grave marker," he says quietly. "For who?" He doesn't answer. But he doesn't have to. You sit beside him for a long time. Fade joins you later. She doesn't speak, only sits. 3 lives. 3 fates. All now tied to this cold northern world. What comes back is not just gold and grain. It is grief. It is power. It is the knowledge that every journey outward changes not just the traveler, but the home they return to. And in the darkness between stars, you wonder, how many more will sail? And how many will return? Chapter 11. The Fire and the Storm, the final test of the settlement. The sun lingers longer now. Snow has retreated to the shaded hills. Rivers run freely. Birds return to the trees. The earth, once locked beneath winter's hush, opens again, soft, damp, alive. The village breathes, but unease lingers, like smoke caught in cloth. Fade spends her mornings tending goats with Eric and her nights staring into the fire. Silent, the new thralls do not smile. They work well, quietly, obediently, but without spark. They are shadows moving through the shape of life. Even the warriors walk heavier, as if the last raid still clings to their bones. Astrid speaks little. She keeps to the garden and the loom. When you pass her, she nods. No more, no less. Something is shifting, and then the sky darkens. It begins as a low grumble, barely noticed over the sounds of tools and footsteps. A gray edge on the horizon. Wind from the south. Nothing unusual, not at first, but the clouds build fast. By midday, the sky is black. Birds vanish. The goats bleat anxiously. Eric runs to tell Astrid. By the time the first thunderclap cracks the air, everyone is running. Children are herded into longhouses. Tools are dropped. Fires are smothered. Men brace the shipyard. Women pull blankets across doorways to keep the rain out. Then it comes. The storm. Wind howls down the mountain pass, slamming doors, lifting roofs. Rain slashes sideways, as if hurled by angry gods. Lightning strikes so close you feel it in your teeth, sharp and metallic. Thunder rolls not as sound, but as force. A tree splits just beyond the field. You see the glow before the shout. Fire. One of the outer houses is burning. A bolt of lightning struck the thatch. In seconds, the flame leaps like a predator, hungry, wild, beautiful and terrible. The rain tries to fight it, but wind feeds it faster. Leaf is already there, shouting orders. Buckets, axes, cut the thatch, cut it. You grab a pail and run. The fire devours fast. It takes a roof, then a wall. Thralls and villagers form lines, passing water hand to hand. Children scream. A goat breaks loose, running into the storm. The blaze lights the rain red and gold, casting giant shadows across terrified faces. And still the thunder rolls, booming, mocking. The gods are not watching tonight. They are roaring. When the fire is finally smothered, soaked and beaten, the house is gone. Blackened, collapsed, a twisted skeleton of charred timber. The storm fades, but silence doesn't return. Only the low, stunned whimpering of a community brought to its knees. The next day, they buried 2 bodies. One thrall, unnamed, and a child, the son of a fisherman, burned trying to rescue a pouch of trinkets he'd hidden beneath the floor. Eric helps dig the grave. His hands shake. You try to speak to Astrid, but she shakes her head. Her eyes are hollow. I told them not to build too close. She whispers. The wind always turns. Fade stands beside you, holding a charred piece of pottery. You recognize it, one of hers. She drops it into the earth. A quiet offering. The Jarl calls a gathering that evening. He speaks not with fire, but with gravel. We are not gods, he says. We cannot control the sky, but we can rebuild. We can learn. No more thatch on outer homes. No more waiting to reinforce our walls. He speaks of better systems, watchmen, storm signals, stronger stores of grain away from dwellings. But he also speaks of blame. Our luck has drawn envy. Our riches have drawn storms. Perhaps we ask too much. The villagers murmur. A few nod. Others look away. Later, as night falls, you find Leaf outside the burned house, staring into the ashes. We were warned, he says. You remember the Volva's words. Glory brings weight, and weight drowns. Do you believe the gods did this? You ask. Leaf doesn't answer. Not directly. Something watches. Whether God or sky, I don't know. But we are never alone. He turns to you. Do you think we're meant to keep growing? Keep taking? You hesitate. Then shake your head. Maybe we're meant to remember. Leaf nods once. Then let's remember this. The days that follow are not joyful, but they are committed. Villagers rebuild, not just homes, but trust. Not just walls, but respect. The line between thrall and kin softens slightly. Fade begins teaching one of the newer women to weave. Astrid plants a new herb bed outside the longhouse. Eric carves symbols into a new roof beam, runes of protection. And you? You help. Not because it is expected, but because you have no reason not to. Because this, finally, feels like home. Because for the first time, this story feels like yours. Chapter 12. The last sale, choices. Crossroads. And the closing door. The village breathes again, not in joy, but in rhythm. The fields, once waterlogged, begin to bloom. The goats give milk again. Children's laughter returns, hesitantly at first, like a song remembered after silence. Repairs continue. New beams replace old. Roofs are reinforced. The forge hums. But under it all, something stirs. Not unrest. Not dread. A question. It comes first in glances. Then in murmured talks by firelight. Then one morning, in a question spoken aloud by Astrid as she kneads bread. Will you stay? When the summer comes, you freeze. The dough sticks to your fingers. Warm and soft. Stay? She doesn't look up. You've walked our paths, worn our winters, sailed our waters. The Jarl says you've earned your place. You could take land, build, marry, even. She pauses, then looks at you, truly looks. But do you want to? The question follows you through the day. It waits at the forge as Gunnar shapes new nails. It whispers through the trees as you help Eric trap rabbits. It stirs in your chest as you watch Leif polish the dragon head on his ship's prow. And that night, as you lie in your furs beneath the beams of the longhouse, it breathes into your dreams. Would you stay? Or return? You rise before dawn and walk to the fjord. Mist hangs over the water, thick and low, turning the world silver. Leif stands beside his ship, fingers trailing over the hull. I'm sailing again, he says quietly. You nod. You expected it. This time, we go far. Not just raids. Trade, too. Mapping islands. Finding others like us. I want Eric to see the world before he becomes it. You glance at him. You'll take him? Leif nods once. He's ready. You feel something deep twist in your chest. Pride, worry, farewell. And you, Leif says, turning, what do you want? You don't answer. Not yet. Instead, you help prepare the ship. You assist Astrid in packing dried meats. Salt fish, honey bread. Fade gathers herbs and cloth. Hands busy, eyes low. Eric sharpens a new blade. Fingers trembling only slightly. There is no feast this time. Only calm. Only readiness. When the day comes, the village lines the shore again. But fewer tears fall this time. No desperation. Only acceptance. And the faintest note of hope. Leif clasps your arm. Whatever you decide, know that you were one of us. Eric hugs you. Tight. Astrid touches your cheek. Go where your heart tells you. She whispers. Then the ship pushes off. The sails fill. The dragon rises again. You stand alone on the dock, watching, until the red sail becomes a dot on the horizon. Then mist. Then memory. You return to the longhouse. Fade is there, preparing tea. She glances at you, a question in her eyes. You shake your head. Not yet. She nods. She understands. The days pass. Quietly. Peacefully. And every morning, you walk to the fjord. You watch the water. You think of the world beyond. Of cities, streets, clocks, steel and glass and noise. And of this place. This quiet pocket of earth and fire. Salt and smoke. Loss and love. This home. And one night, as the stars rise and the embers glow red, you speak your choice aloud. Only to yourself. But that is enough. You've lived the Viking Age. Not as a hero. Not as a raider. But as someone real. And when you sleep that night, your dreams are full of sails and snow. Fire and storm. And the sound of a forge hammer striking rhythm in the heart of a longhouse that may or may not still exist. Somewhere, out there, beyond time, the fire is low now. Its light flickers against the beams above your head, casting long shadows across the worn wooden walls of the longhouse that once held your fears. Your hopes, your breath. Outside, the night is still. No wind moves through the trees. No footsteps sound on the dirt paths of the village. The fjord is silent, and somewhere beyond it, the sea rests, gentle for now, but full of stories yet to be told. You lie back, blanket pulled to your chest, the scent of smoke and pine still clinging to the fabric, and you let your thoughts wander. You think of Astrid, the quiet strength of her hands, the way she never asked for gratitude but gave her trust freely. You think of Eric, wide-eyed, earnest, trying so hard to be brave. You think of Fade, silent, observant, shaping a new life out of the ashes of her old one. You think of Leif, his eyes always scanning the horizon, always pulled between the pull of the sea and the anchor of home. You think of the dragon ships, the storm, the fire, the blood, the songs, the fear, the wonder. the weight, and in the center of it all, you. Not a warrior, not a ruler, not a god, but witness, a soul who walked through another time, and found it both beautiful and brutal, kind and cruel, sacred and savage. The Viking Age wasn't glory. It wasn't only raids and plunder. It was community, hardship, frostbitten mornings, shared loaves, loss and labor and light. It was people, real, flawed, human, trying to survive in a world that gave them no guarantee. Just like us. And that's why it lives. Not just in sagas. Not just in museums or carvings or the bones pulled from burial mounds. It lives in us. In the rhythm of our hearts when we face something hard. In the steadiness of our hands when we help one another. In our longing for adventure and our need for home. The age of Vikings passed. But their stories didn't. Because when we remember them, not as legends, but as people, they remember us too. And they walk again in our minds. In the night. In dreams. So now, listener, close your eyes. Let the tide take you. Let the embers of the fire grow soft. Let the world of salt and sails slip beneath the waves of your breathing. You have journeyed far. And now, it is time to rest. Sleep well, traveler. The village will still be here in the morning. And the stars? They will still be watching. Just as they always have. Just as they always will.